Shut down. Court cases grind to a halt as judges abandon courtrooms. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Janella Precious.
And I'm Doreen Samuels. Also this evening, it's your fault. Opposition blames government for court shutdown.
Frustration. Attorneys react to the shutdown of the court system.
Murder rampage. Gunmen on the loose in St. Catherine. 4 killed in 24 hours.
Breakdown. Teachers to hold a meeting as wage talks hit another snag.
And in business news, give us your wares. Britain tells Jamaican businesses to look to its market for growth.
There's also sports commentary and weather in this newscast. But before the break, the feedback question.
What is your reaction to the shutdown of the justice system by judges today?
You can share comments online, facebook.com/Television Jamaica, and tweet us at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News. A special welcome again to our viewers on onespotmedia.com.
A reminder as well that you can watch TVJ live by downloading our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the word Spot and Media.
The country's court system grinded to a halt on Monday as 97 judges who sit in the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court and the parish courts across the island abandoned their courtrooms.
The judges said their action was to highlight concerns about the separation of powers, judicial independence and accountability in the wake of the recent comments by the Prime Minister relating to the appointment of Justice Brian Sykes as acting Chief Justice.
In a release late this evening, the judges said their action was taken without the knowledge of the acting Chief Justice. TVJ's Herman Green was at the Supreme Court this morning and filed this report.
A number of cases were slated for 10 o'clock this morning at the Supreme Court and the Appeal Court here in downtown Kingston. From what we understand, all of those were put off because no judges were available. Now, the reason given in some courtrooms is that it was administrative reasons, administrative issues to be cleared up. What we understand, however, is that the judges are in a meeting, basically a protest action for a number of issues. Chief among the issues leading to the judges' action on Monday is the recent statement from Prime Minister Andrew Holness regarding the appointment of Justice Brian Sykes to act as Chief Justice. A statement from the Court Management Services on Monday afternoon outlined that with the principle of the separation of powers and the independence of the judiciary seemingly under threat, an urgent meeting was necessary. The statement said the concerns also extended to what appears to be other instances of interference by the legislative and executive branches of government. Several individuals and groups believe the acting appointment is also unconstitutional. While being inconvenienced Monday morning herself as an attorney, President of the Bar Association of Jamaica, Jacqueline Cummings, believes the meeting was needed to address several escalating issues.
I think it is a combination of wanting to all meet together and determine the way forward. It has to do with, I suppose, working conditions, the perceived independence of the judiciary being trampled upon, and the salaries, what is happening with regards to the lack of judicial clerks. I think those are the major issues.
Justice Minister Delroy Chuck said he was surprised by the action of the judges as he thought they were meeting at a parish level. He has also condemned the timeliness of the judge's decision.
I think it was most inappropriate at this time at 10 o'clock to have a meeting at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. Hundreds of persons would have been affected, and the inconvenience that would have been caused to persons using the courts cannot be, measured. I think it would have been much better for them to call the meeting in the afternoon so that at least in the morning urgent matters could have been dealt with and matters that are not urgent could have been postponed and put to another time.
The Court Management Services says in spite of the meeting, matters were heard on Monday in the Home Circuit Court and the Gun Court, and matters scheduled for the afternoon session at the Supreme Court proceeded as scheduled. A full statement on the sitting is to be released to the public before the end of this week. Herman Green, TVJ News.
In the meantime, judges in Montego Bay were also no-show today as well. This as they joined their colleagues at the Supreme Court in Kingston for a meeting. Vice President of the Cornwall Bar Association, Attorney-at-Law Chumi Paris, says when lawyers turned up for court in Trelawney, St. James, Westmoreland and Hanover, all proceedings were on hold.
Arriving at court this morning, I was told by the members of the court staff that there'll be no court sitting. And the reason for that was that there was a meeting being held in Kingston by the judges. As a result of that, no court was held in relation to matters that I'm aware of, no court was held.
Mr. Paris says the situation has caused some inconvenience to members of the public and lawyers travelling outside of Western Jamaica.
To conduct a meeting of this nature, I can't think of it ever happening before, I could be corrected on that. But I have no reason to believe that the meeting being held in Kingston the judges would not have had given some consideration as to the impact that the meeting would have. But I'm sure it is that the meeting and what they are intended to deliberate in the meeting would be of great concern to members of the public.
He says the impact was far-reaching as the Western Regional Gun Court, the family and parish courts were all affected. Meanwhile, some attorneys have expressed frustration with today's disruption in the courts. TVJ's Shamela Mitchell has that story.
3 courthouses in the parish of St. Elizabeth and no judge present. The result? More than 200 people who would normally show up for court on a Monday were sent back home. Some lawyers representing these persons are not happy. St. Elizabeth-based attorney Thomas Levine says lawyers were surprised to learn that no judges would be sitting.
Today would have been a return day in one court and trials in others. And several matters which would have been committed to the circuit court for the 26th of February had to be put off for another date. And as well as several persons who are in custody, other dates have to be sought for them. What is most distressing, however, are those witnesses who are here for several matters which have been set for priority, and those matters had to be put off for other dates, further frustrating them.
Mr. Levine says although he's not sure what the real reason behind this is, some lawyers are concerned about the judges not turning up in court. But attorney at law Ernest Smith says while he does not have a problem with the judges meeting as it is a regular thing for them to do, but he believed there should have been an announcement.
I would have preferred if there was some degree of announcement so that I would not travel, for example, today all the way from St. Anne down here to Santa Cruz.
Mr. Levine added that the situation will result in a greater backlog in the court system.
And because of that, all parties, police officers, prosecutors, those at the defense bar, we are all concerned at these recent developments concerning the judges. And we hope that be resolved as quickly as possible.
Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
And for the first time this evening, the judges are speaking out. In a release a short while ago, the 97 judges described the Prime Minister's comment as unfortunate and are calling on the Prime Minister to retract his statements. TVJ's Andrea Chisholm now joins us live with the details. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Doreen. Well, the judges in their release described the comments by Prime Minister Andrew Holness as unfortunate. They made it clear that they were not speaking on behalf of the acting Chief Justice Brian Sykes and they are acting independently of him. In their release, they indicated that as head of the executive branch of government, Mr. Holness sought to place the head of the judiciary under his supervision, direction and control and subject to a process of evaluation by him. The judges also reiterated, Doreen, a point made by several stakeholders, saying the comments were inappropriate and in breach of the doctrine of separation of powers. That doctrine, they argue, as well as the independence of the judiciary, are not for the benefit of the judges, but to protect ordinary citizens. Now, in light of all this, the 97 judges said, quote, "We ask the Prime Minister to retract his statements and to publicly acknowledge that the Chief Justice is not answerable to him." End quote. The judges also went on to say, however, they are not making any comment in relation to the ongoing debate about whether the acting appointment of Chief Justice Sykes was unconstitutional, illegal, or otherwise invalid. That, they believe, is a matter for the court to decide. The judges also accepted that even though the judiciary is independent, it is accountable to the public. They recognize efforts to change the way how judges are assigned, increase criminal and civil case management, schedule time for them to write judgments, and the use of technology to enhance efficiency. And of course, Doreen, will continue to follow this story as it develops. It's back to you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips says the judge's action is an indication of what he calls a mismanagement of the justice system by the government.
This unprecedented action that has been taken by the entire judiciary and the magistrates shows how serious an issue has been raised because of the misconduct of the Prime Minister and his ill-advised action. It didn't have to come to this. I cannot for the life of me understand why the Prime Minister does not act swiftly to spare the country the trauma that has arisen because of his ill-advised actions.
Meanwhile, Minister of Justice Delroy Chuck is again raising concern about judges who take unusually long times to deliver judgments in cases they preside over. The minister says it's a big problem which he will be tackling. Here's TVJ's Kirk Wright with that story.
At the end of every court case, judges are supposed to provide a summation on their judgment, bringing the case to a close. Our checks reveal that in a lot of instances, that has not been happening. The Justice Minister says he's unable to state the amount of outstanding judgments there were, but he said it was enough for him to be alarmed.
This is a major concern that I've expressed, and I think the Prime Minister is also very concerned about, because we do get a lot of letters from persons who have judgments outstanding for years.
Mr. Chuck says judgments should be ready within a fairly quick timeline. He gave an example.
I have said 6 months should be a maximum, and in fact most countries feel that 3 months is the norm.
Mr. Chuck made it clear, however, that most judges comply.
So when we highlight, a few judges who don't, we must not give the impression that all judges behave like that. But it is a problem, and that is something which the new Chief Justice, and I've had discussions with him, we need some guidelines and timelines so that the country at large can start to have confidence in our justice system.
He says action can be taken against the judges who do not comply. But Mr. Chuck says he would rather not go that route unless it's necessary.
Guyana, for example, has passed legislation to say that after 6 months, if a judgment is not delivered, it is judicial misconduct. There are other countries that withhold your salaries until they deliver the judgment. So, but I would like to feel that moral suasion can work. I am watching. I know that a lot of the backlog of judgments have now been delivered, but there are still quite a few which are outstanding.
Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
A top story this evening. Shut down. Court cases grind to a halt as judges abandon courtrooms. And still ahead, breakdown. Teachers to hold meeting as wage talks hit another snag. And in business news, Britain tells Jamaican businesses to target its market for growth. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news. It has been a bloody start to the week in St. Catherine following a quadruple murder in the parish in less than 24 hours. In Thompson Pen last night, the police were called to the scene of a triple murder. But shortly after, another tragedy, this time in Linstead, where a bus operator was shot and killed. And as TVJ's Kalisha Williams now reports, the mayor of Spanish Town, Norman Scott, is calling for increased police operations in the parish.
The numbers are stark. At least 30 murders in the St. Catherine North Police Division since the start of the year, the highest in the island, replacing St. James, which has seen its murder tally for the same period falling 50%. Despite increased police presence in some areas, criminals have continued their rampage, including a triple murder in Thompson Pen, St. Catherine around 9 o'clock Sunday night. One of the victims has been identified as 28-year-old Andre Cephas. The identities of the other two are yet to be established. Reports indicate the three men were at a bar in Thompson Pen when a lone gunman opened fire at them. A 10-year-old child was also shot and injured. On Monday, another tragedy. A bus operator was shot and killed at the Linstead Transport Center. It caused disruptions for students and other commuters who were stranded for hours.
The police are going to be investigating. They would have blocked off the section of the transport center that's between KFC and the book center. So people been scrambling all morning to get to work. The taxis and the other buses are all over the place. And those people who go to school in and around the immediate area are having like a challenge. They have to be walking a short road between the police and Trinity Prep School.
Mayor of Spanish Town, Norman Scott, pointed out that transport centers across St. Catherine have been plagued by criminals for some time now.
The camera system which I have started, and we have been in dialogue to have it set up. We are yet to see anything coming out of it. I think that having the camera system in the transportation centers will make a great impact.
While the mayor did not specifically call for a zone of special operations in the area, he believed the security forces should intensify their presence in the parish.
Whatever cooperation is necessary, I'm willing to do. Even since morning, I was on the phone with the Honorable Minister, speaking about some of the solutions that may be able to stem this murder rate.
Kalisha Williams, TVJ News.
To news now in politics. Supporters from the two main political parties turned out in their numbers as the candidates contesting the Northwest St. Andrew by-election were nominated today. The opposition is claiming victimization, but the government continues to rubbish the assertions. TVJ's Vashon Brown has more.
Supporters of the Jamaica Labour Party making their way to the Pembroke Hall Community Centre in St. Andrew Northwestern. They came here to support this man, the JLP's Dr. Nigel Clark. He was accompanied by the Prime Minister and the JLP leader Andrew Holness, as well as other party officials. Before Dr. Clark's nomination, People's National Party supporters also arrived with their candidate Keisha Hale. She was flanked by the opposition leader and PNP President Dr. Peter Phillips and other party officials. The former MP Derek Smith led the constituency for close to 30 years.
So there are great possibilities. It is one could say it is an uphill walk, but we have the candidate. If there's any candidate who could do it, it is this lady.
PNP supporters say it's time for a change in St. Andrew Northwestern.
Why you think say she go window? Because the JLP dominate the constituency for years now.
No, that's JLP's. That's JLP's business. We are come out, and the people them are come out, and by the looks of nomination, we are step out. Yeah, she's a woman of her word, and we see it, and we'll be here now 100%. Full time, long time. I want to change, but tired of this. Nothing for the people.
The Jamaica Labour Party, however, says Dr. Clark is the man for the job.
Come election day, Dr. Nigel Clark will be the new Member of Parliament to serve the good people of Northwest St. Andrew.
I don't really know him, but you see any person, my Prime Minister Andrew Holness elect for doing work, or know good people. So I don't really have to know him, but me I bring him from a Prime Minister side him.
I don't really want him to do nothing for me, He's not a money labour right, He's a dieted labour right. If you cut me now a green bill I run out and me look up on all my fingernail. Everything green.
Within the past few days, the PNP has been complaining about the victimization of their candidate because of an audit at the institution.
We haven't seen anything. She hasn't seen anything. Nothing was raised with her before. It is a simple contrivance.
To charge victimization is a bit disingenuous on the part of the People's National Party. They have been in government for a long time. They know how the process operates. And that's one department you don't get involved in terms of audit is. If you do so, it would be rejected by the civil servants. Audit is something that professionals maintain, that is their privilege and right and responsibility. And the fact is that from my checks, and I haven't been able to pin down the dates, but again, it's another year that is handled with confidence. But they have been to the school several times and she has absented herself.
So with nomination day now out of the way, the candidates say they're now looking forward to the March 5 by-election. They're now talking about their plans for the constituency going forward.
We'll address the roads in the constituency, plans for youth empowerment, plans for ensuring that green spaces are turned into areas that citizens can enjoy with their families. The most important thing that I bring is sincerity, compassion.
My plans for the constituency is to make it the best constituency in Jamaica, Northwest St. Andrew. We are looking at property values, we are looking at time and motion studies to ensure that a police vehicle is on every road within 5 minutes. We are looking at improved roads.
Vashan Brown, TVJ News.
Now, in light of the unprecedented action taken by the island's judges and other pressing national issues, TVJ News sought to get a comment from the Prime Minister Andrew Holness at the nomination day activities for Dr. Nigel Clark. Our reporter Vashan Brown attempted to get an interview with Mr. Holness. However, he was barred by a member of Mr. Holness's security detail. The close protection officer held on to the reporter's microphone and hand. Now, by this time, the Prime Minister got into his car and eventually left.
And there was another nomination today, this time for the local government by-election for the Norman Gardens division of the Kingston and St Andrew Municipal Corporation. TVJ's Anthony Lugg tells us what happened in that division.
It was your typical nomination day, this time for the local government seat vacated by now MP Angela Brown-Burke. Security personnel in place to ensure things go smoothly for the 12 and 1 o'clock times given to both party candidates to be nominated. Shortly after 12, loud music as JLP supporters march along Wynwood Road towards the nomination centre. With the JLP candidate for the Norman Gardens division, Headley Wilson. He's familiar with the process, and so he enters with Kingston's Mayor Delroy Williams. After observing the proceedings and documents, the fee was paid with $100 bills. Mr. Wilson lost the last election to Angela Brown-Burke, but he says he's confident this time around.
I'm going to win. Angela is everywhere. She's not here anymore, so I'm more confident this time around.
Many claim the JLP has no chance of winning the Norman Gardens division. We asked Kingston's Mayor Delroy Williams about claims that Mr. Wilson is being put as a lamb to be slaughtered.
Mr. Wilson doesn't feel like a lamb to the slaughter. He is a seasoned campaigner, and he's serious about giving the people an option, and he has been campaigning and doing so quite remarkably.
After the JLP's departure, the atmosphere calmed. But by 1, it was pure excitement. The sound of the marching band and PNP supporters clad in orange made it clear the PNP candidate wasn't too far. And in minutes, PNP candidate Jacqueline Lewis emerged from the crowd. Surrounded by party leader Dr. Peter Phillips, former councillor for the Norman Gardens division Angela Brown-Burke, and other senior members of the People's National Party. They rushed into the nomination centre. The official from the electoral office examines the nomination document. She pays her nomination fee and completes the nomination process. We asked about her plans for the constituency.
The same as before, I have been working and will continue to work. There will be no surprises. It's always an easy way. This is a walkover.
Party leader Dr. Peter Phillips is also confident the seat will go to the PNP.
I have no doubt whatever that she will receive the support of the people and will be the next councillor of the Norman Gardens division.
But Angela Brown-Burke is focused on getting the voters out on the day.
Not that they don't support us, not that they don't, but that's the nature of a by-election. So I think that is something which we have to do. I think Jackie has done well in terms of just walking the highways and byways.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the RGR Gleaner Communications Group has written to both political parties to find out and inform the public of the citizenship status of all parliamentarians currently sitting in the lower house and the Senate. The RGR Gleaner Group, in a letter to both parties, asked for the country of birth, the current citizenship status in relation to the country of birth, whether the parliamentarian has Jamaican citizenship, how it was acquired, when it was acquired, among other things. Now, following the 2007 general election, 5 members of parliament were found to be in possession of non-Commonwealth foreign citizenship. Last October, it emerged that PNP candidate for the St. Mary South Eastern seat qualified to run for parliament based on his Canadian citizenship, though he did not possess Jamaican citizenship. Today, Dr. Shane Alexis told TVJ News that his application is still being processed as he has not received a response from the passport office.
Wage talks between the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, and the government have again hit a snag. The association, at a meeting of its Salaries and Conditions of Service Committee, today unanimously rejected the current offer made by the government. The association says the offer does not represent the understanding it had reached with the government at its last negotiation meeting on January 30. The Salaries and Conditions of Service Committee also rejected the 4-year contract period being proposed by government. In a statement this afternoon, the JTA said its members are of the view that there is now a serious trust deficit between the association and the government. The association has called a media briefing for tomorrow to address the issues related to its wage claim.
The big day for RGR Gleaner Group Awards 2018 is tomorrow. Over the past few weeks, the RGR Gleaner Group has been honoring a number of Jamaicans from all aspects of society. Now, each year, the RGR Gleaner Group recognizes and awards the initiative, accomplishments, and courage of one individual or organization that has contributed significantly by word or deed to improving the quality of life at any time during the year, or is likely to bring about such change in the immediate future. This year, Miss Universe Jamaica 2017 Davina Bennett, CEO of the NCB Financial Group Patrick Hilton, visually impaired Senator Floyd Morris, reggae entertainer Jamar McNaughton, more popularly known as Chronix, and CEO of the Port Authority of Jamaica, Professor Gordon Shirley, are among the category winners. From the list of awardees in the 9 categories, one will be named Awardee of the Year at the gala celebration, which will be held tomorrow at Jamaica Pegasus Hotel.
And of course, we have the financial week. We have our international stories up next.